Welcome to Jazz Zone Together, our new online jazz community where we will provide jazz education and classroom resources, interviews with jazz educators, artists, and celebrities, along with valuable teaching tips and repertoire suggestions. Today, I'm really pleased to be interviewing one of our nation's leading jazz educators, music education advocates, and authors, Dick Dunscomb. Dick's most recent publication project is our new jazz curriculum, Jazz Zone: The Beginning. Welcome to Jazz Zone Together, Dick.
Thank you, Bob. I'm so happy to be here, and it's good to see you.
Likewise. All right, I want to start by getting a picture of what led you to a career in music.
Well, I started playing the trumpet. I was in fourth grade, and I was enamored with not only the trumpet, but with my dad. He was a trumpet player at night. He was a accountant during the day, but several nights a week he'd play in the local area. And so I got to go along with him and listen, and I fell in love with the music and am still in love with the music. So I played in middle school and also in high school, where we had a concert band, and we also had a stage band, which played for high school dances. And that was fun, playing just stock arrangements. So I graduated from high school, Decatur High School in Illinois, and decided that I wanted to go on with my education. And so I had an opportunity to go to Millikan University, which was also in Decatur. I was a bit of a tennis player, so they helped me a little bit with that. And I was interested in majoring in music. It was quite an experience. It was a small school. I think the total enrollment was around 1,500, but it was a great opportunity, and they had some fantastic teachers. So I got my bachelor's degree and went out and taught it for a couple of years, came back then and got my master's degree in a different kind of environment than it was when I left. They had hired a new trumpet and jazz teacher, which they'd never had before, a jazz teacher. His name was Roger Schuler, and he was fresh off the Stan Kenton band. And man, I was so impressed, and he was quite a character. He was amazing. Lots of very positive work that we did. And of course, you know, when you're in an environment like that, in that particular era, some of the educators were known for being kind of cantankerous too. So he had that side, but you know, we really benefited more from all of the positive things. I mean, he developed a jazz band at Millikan that was competitive with all of those across the country. And we actually participated in a national festival and did quite well. So that got me the bug. I mean, I'd always loved jazz, but now I was inside it. And the opportunity to teach was just burning me up. So with my master's degree, I headed off to Chicago and a suburban school, Argo High School. I spent 3 years there and developed a very, very strong program, and then was offered an opportunity to move to Champaign, Illinois, where I went to Champaign Central High School. I was there for 5 years, and we had a wonderful relationship with the University of Illinois, faculty, students, and of course, I had a lot of the faculty students in the program. So we had a wonderful concert band, a wonderful marching band, and an incredibly successful jazz band. We were state champions a couple of times and had gained a lot of notoriety. So I had reached the point where I was considering going back to get my doctorate degree, which I felt, you know, would have been appropriate at that time. At that same time, I had an opportunity to take a college position and to start a jazz program there. And I was really mixed in which way to go. But as time went on, I was working with David Baker at Indiana University, where I wanted to go and he wanted me to be there. But we just didn't get all the paperwork done as far as assistantship was concerned. And I had some children and couldn't afford to go there without it. So they offered me the job at Purdue University, and I decided I needed to accept it. The day the moving van pulled up, David called. He said, "Dick, it's all worked out. You can come now. We got the money." I said, "David, too late." So anyway, I went there and developed another jazz program and spent 14 wonderful years. And at that point, had an opportunity to go to Miami, to Florida International University, where they wanted to start a jazz program. So I did. And as most people know, and you certainly do from living in Miami, it's quite a place. Music is internationally impacted throughout the city. And so I had this opportunity to begin this program. And I was looking for people to come in to work with me in teaching the various instruments and so forth. And guess what? Arturo Sandoval moved to Miami. And boy, did I hop over to his house and knock on his door. And what I said to him was, "Arturo, welcome to Miami. I would love to hire you to come and teach at FIU." And he said, "Come on in." And we talked and talked and talked. And he said, "Yes, I will come." So I went back to the university and talked to the president, who I had not talked to before, and told him what the circumstances were. And he said, "Go get him, whatever it takes, go get him." So I did. And Arturo joined the faculty. It was an incredible experience, as you might well know. He was one of several really incredible teachers that we had there. Jonathan Joseph on drums, Gary Campbell on saxophone, Mike Orta on piano, and it went on and on and on. And so we were often blessed to be the Arturo Sandoval Big Band. We went to South America, we went to Brazil. We actually even went on a cruise as the Arturo Sandoval Big Band. So it was quite an experience. I developed a master's degree program and we were cooking. Well, it came to a point where I had an opportunity to take retirement, early retirement. And so I did, almost regrettably, I did. But it wasn't long after that I had another opportunity to take another job, and that was at Columbia College Chicago, in obviously Chicago. They were just coming off having Bill Russo, who was a very famous guy, who was a composer, trombone player, who had written for the Kenton Band and several. I mean, he was well known, and he passed away. So they interviewed me and offered me some things that I couldn't refuse. So from Miami, here I go, back to the Midwest and to Chicago. Well, we had a real successful run there. I was the head of the music school, and we developed several unique programs. One of the things I did when I got there was to go around and visit all the other music schools and see what they did. Well, I got that information and brought it back to my faculty and staff, and we decided that they had this pretty well covered, all of the areas except for one, and that was contemporary music. So we set out on a path to develop a school that was different from all of the other schools. And it was different in a very, very successful way because no one else was doing it. So we developed an undergraduate program called Contemporary Urban and Pop Music, which is still thriving today. We developed a master's degree program in music composition for the screen, which is the #2 program in the entire United States in that area. So it was a terrific run, and I had such incredible teachers and staff. It was just beautiful. We also were associated with the Chicago Jazz Ensemble, and John Faddis was the director of that. And we had so many wonderful times. Well, it came to a point where I was offered another early retirement. I don't know how that works when you're that age, but anyway, I had a sabbatical coming. So I took the sabbatical, and at the end of the sabbatical, they offered me the opportunity to retire, and I did. So I think that pretty well covers that story.
Wow. What an innovator and creator you have been during that decades of commitment to music and music education. As a powerful force for music education and jazz education, you served for years in a variety of roles with NAJE and IAJE, and were also there during the formation of JEN, the Jazz Education Network. Discuss the importance to educators, and especially to young educators, of such organizations.
Yes, it really is important. It's also important for the talented and experienced educators, because it's an opportunity to interact with your colleagues from across the country and actually across the world. There are just so many experiences that I've had through those organizations. National Association for Jazz Educators, I became the president of that organization in 1986 to 1988, and then was the international coordinator for that organization. We eventually morphed into the IAJE, International Association for Jazz Education, and became even broader in our outreach. That opportunity to get together once a year at the conference was full of knowledge and performances, great clinics, and as I said before, just the opportunity to exchange ideas and to get to meet your colleagues. I've always felt that I don't know everything, and I want to learn from other people. And that was an opportunity for that in a huge, huge way. Now we have JEN. IAJ came to a close, unfortunately, but JEN, an organization that was founded by Lou Fisher and Mary Jo Papich, and I was proud to be one of the founding members. This is the organization that's running today, and it's doing many of the same things that the others did. It has an annual conference as well, and of course this year will be a virtual conference, but this is something that all jazz educators or people who need information about jazz should belong to, whether you're a teacher, a student, industry person, or just a fan. It's a valuable, valuable experience. So yes, all of those organizations, and particularly now with JEN, join.
Yeah, especially with what we're experiencing today, interacting and networking with others. As you said, it's a great learning opportunity to learn what you don't know, as well as to improve on where you are as an educator. You've also been a member of the board of the Midwest Clinic in Chicago for a number of years and currently serving as vice president. Discuss for us how important the Midwest Clinic is and some of its tremendous attributes and how it serves the instrumental music community worldwide.
I'll be happy to, Bob. But before I do that, I want to talk about one other thing that I was involved with that helped to create my career and me as a jazz person. I had the honor and privilege of being the North American coordinator for the Montreux Jazz Festival in Montreux, Switzerland. I started that in 1982, thanks to a gentleman in Detroit named Don Lupp. Don was the predecessor for me. He had done that job for a few years. And unfortunately, he was passing away and asked for them to consider me for that position. I was at that time working with the Montreux Detroit Jazz Festival and met with the people, Michelle Furla, who was the director of the tourist office there, and the festival was run through there. So I agreed to do that and started out with a small group of groups coming from the United States, both high school, college, and even middle school groups and community groups. So I would receive their applications during the year, tapes, and listen to them and say which groups I thought would be good to have in the festival, and selected them. And then I would spend the month of July in Montreux, welcoming and working behind the scenes with all of those great people over there. It grew as we went through the years, where we had like almost 50 groups of students and communities and all of that in Montreux every year. And that was something that they had not had before. And it was an opportunity educationally for groups to come. I met so many wonderful people and so many great memories from those experiences. One I'll share with you, which I think is relevant. And that had to do with a reenactment of the Gil Evans music featuring Miles Davis. As you know, Miles was not one to look back. He was always looking at the next opportunity, and he had appeared several times during my tenure in Montreux. And every year, the people would come to see him. Every musician that was there would come to see him to find out what Miles is into next. Well, that became an annual event. Now, the festival producer, Claude Nobbs, had another idea. He asked Quincy Jones to come and co-produce a festival with him in this year. Well, what they came up with was they wanted to recreate Miles's earlier music that was arranged by Gil Evans. So that was quite an undertaking. And it's amazing how that worked out, because I was there when they came, and it was musicians from a couple of organizations and a ton of musicians from New York. There was a stage full of probably 60 or 70 musicians. And Quincy was there. Everybody was kind of just anxious to get underway, and this was the rehearsal. Well, Miles wasn't there. But he did come a little bit later, and he brought along with him Wallace Rooney. Wallace was a trumpet player, and wouldn't you know it, he asked Wallace to play his parts in the rehearsal. So the musicians were kind of taken back, and they said, wait a minute, Miles is not going to play. It's just going to be a farce. Well, Miles was smarter than all of them. I think he was just saving his chops for the concert that night. Anyway, the concert went on. Miles did play, and he did play the way he played in those recordings earlier. It was a most, I'm just still getting goosebumps talking about it. It was one of the most wonderful jazz experiences I had in my entire life. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I know from our discussions with some of the folks that we have interviewed recently that lifelong friendships have been developed out of that relationship that you worked through Montreux and took to the festival. That became a big part of the topic during our interview with Darius Brubeck, and so that obviously those are not only great memories for you, but impactful moments in your career.
And I think so in other people's as well. So now let me talk to you about Midwest. I'm sorry, I diverted you
Oh, that's
from that long
wonderful.
question. Midwest International Band and Orchestra Clinic. This will be the 74th year for this clinic. It's attended annually by 17,000 musicians, industry, educators. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, instrumental music conference in the world. I began going there as a young educator and fell in love with the format. They had concerts, they had clinics, they had mixers, they had opportunities for everybody to go in a different direction, whether it was concert band or marching band or orchestra or whatever. What they didn't have was they didn't have much jazz. And so in 1982, John Painter, who was the president, asked me if I would be willing to come onto the board and to help them to develop a jazz element to the program. Of course, I said yes, and began going about that. Well, the first year, I think we had maybe 4 or 5 events. And that was the beginning to offer the educators that came in there the opportunity to learn more about jazz and hear superior groups. As we went forward, we invited service bands, and the 4 service bands, jazz bands in Washington, D.C., we put on a rotating basis. So every year, one of those fine jazz bands performs at Midwest, and we do a reading session with them. We have other artists that come in. Almost everybody that you've heard of in the jazz area has appeared there. Just recently, we had Doc Severinsen in his 90s, and he was amazing. We've had Wynton Marsalis and on and on and on. So I was very proud of what we had done. We also brought a couple of more educators on with the jazz team. Tony Garcia joined first, and then later Jose Diaz. And they have added so much richness to the presentations and opportunities. Now we have, I can't begin to tell you how many groups apply to perform there every year and how many people apply to do clinics. So we're very proud of what we offer, and opportunities abound for the musicians coming in. They can now choose from concert band, orchestra, jazz band, or they can experience all 3. So for me, it has been a wonderful experience. I have learned so much. And you know, one of the keys to my love for Midwest was I listened. I listened to so many people and listened to so many groups. And I mean, the mentors that I had on the board when I came in, Harry Bijan and others like that, it was amazing, and still is. I learn things every year. So I highly recommend this for any teacher, any student, anybody that's interested in the industry. Has a great presence there. So yeah, Midwest, that's the place to be. Next year, it'll be 75 years, and we're offering a big celebration. This year, the 74th, is a virtual conference, which I think you'll find very helpful as well.
Okay, I have a few years of experience with Midwest myself, going back to when it was hosted at the Sherman House, and it was a very different conference today at McCormick Place, and that just shows the massive nature of the event. Okay, to wrap up, give us a real brief summary of why educators should consider your new jazz curriculum, Jazz Zone, the beginning, and what it can mean to their programs.
Oh, I'd be happy and proud to do that. But before I start, let me thank you, because it was you that gave us that opportunity to develop this program, and your input, and that of Pete Barenbrag, who's the editor of the book and method, along with the 8 outstanding jazz educators and performers that I asked to join me in writing this book. I think it's a book that will last for many years. It's the first one in 20 some years. And so it's time for a new book. It's time for innovation. And innovation we put together in a big way. It's developed around a outline that teachers can use in developing their classroom presence. So it's a lesson plan outline for each lesson, which begins with the national standards, music standards. It has all kinds of information that are a row in each one of the lessons. We do lots of online information. We do history of jazz. We do assessments for each one of the lessons. Everybody plays. And what I think one of the things that is unique is that in every piece that we play, they all learn to play the melody. This is really important, and I think is a neat thing that we are doing. It also leads to improvisation in a very special way. We have 4 beautiful arrangements by Charlie Hill and by Samuel Jackson that are right in target line with the icons that I used in the modeling of the program: Count Basie, Duke Ellington, and Benny Goodman. And so what they do is they listen to the original tunes from the iconic bands, and then we have the tune that is similar, and they learn how to play that with all of the inflections and articulations and all of that information that help to lead them to become a better jazz situation. So it's easy to use, it's fun. You can teach from the laptop if you chose to. We have a digital version as well as a print version. There are parts for every person in the jazz band, full ensemble. It also has additional parts for flute, clarinet, French horn, treble clef, baritone, and tuba. So it could be taught in any form of musical group. So Bob, I'm thrilled with it. I took 3 years after I retired to work on this, and you know how that went. And I'm telling you, there is nothing else on the market like this.
Well, as you know, and you and I've talked about this, I am so proud to have this concept curriculum in our catalog, and certainly to those that are interested in pursuing it, they can check it out online at jazzzoneonline.com and get all of the details and sample products. As you mentioned, all of the listening and play along exercises are available for digital download and readily available. So thank you for your creation. Thank you for sharing your insights and incredibly productive career with us today. I'm blessed to have had the opportunity to share your talents with the world in Jazz Zone, the beginning, and we'll do more as time allows. Stay well and keep doing what you do.
Thank you, Bob.
To our viewers, we appreciate you joining us and being a part of Jazz Zone together. We hope you enjoyed the presentation and found it of real value. We hope you will join us for future episodes. In the meantime, please stay safe and please keep making music.